Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit of mail for you. I've been shirking on mail for bad reasons and even worse reasons. The bad reason is that sometimes I just forget and open the packages. I'll be spending time in the little book room just sort of reading while the bean naps on top of me, and then she'll start to wake up. We're going to stretch our legs. We're going to move around. Maybe she wants to go outside. So I will come out of the little book room, and there will be mail. My surly houseboy will have stacked mail, and sometimes I'll just open it without remembering that I'm supposed to do that on camera. And then the worst reason is that I do set up the camera and start to open a pile of mail and get derailed by either a book that lives in a fantasy land. And I'm supposed to buy into that fantasy, or a book that is hectoring me about things that aren't real, or where the author is assuming that the book is completely unreviewable. All you can do is praise. You can't do anything else. I don't want to hear your opinions if they're critical. I don't even want to hear your opinions if they're evaluative. If you're doing that, you are perpetuating, 1,000-year-old bigotries. You are a horrible person. I may or may not get my fans on Goodreads and Twitter and TikTok to brigade you on your social media sites, or maybe call your employers. Encounter a few of those things and make me realize 20 minutes into a video that I can't upload this. That really puts a pall on opening mail. But we've been dealing with this all year. We're going to keep dealing with it, and we're going to give it a try. I've only got 4 packages here, so I think we'll be in the clear. And a bunch of periodicals. I got, for instance, the Bedford Times Press, a local paper in Iowa that has a column by yours truly. I got the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, broadsheet newspaper off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, off the coast of Massachusetts, with a review by yours truly. Very, very nice. Always nice to get your own work in the mail. But I also got, the London Review of Books. I got some great literary reviews here. This has a review by Tom Johnson of Nicholas Orme's Tudor Children that doesn't say much about Nicholas Orme's book. It mainly talks about childhood in the past and also childhood in the Tudor era. But there was something else here that I did. Oh, right. Fraser McDonald does a really good, it's very autobiographical. It's not a review of a type that I would allow on Open Letters Review, but it's really well done. He does a review of Annie Proulx's book, Fen, Bog, and Swamp, which I reviewed for the Christian Science Monitor and really enjoyed. And there was one other in here, right? There's one other in here that I really... John Lauer, you should never miss him if you read periodical literature. He reviews a book by Janine Bassinger and Sam Wasson. Sam Wasson's terrific, fantastic writer. They did a book called Hollywood, The Oral History, and I have not been able... I cannot even think about the book without giggling about the title. It's the same thing as that Jeffrey Toobin book. I can't get around a silly little detail in order to concentrate on the book. I thought there was one other thing in here. Oh, right. There's a book in here, Anne Murphy. I don't think we saw this book. It's called Virtuous Bankers, A Day in the Life of 18th Century Bank of England. And I would ordinarily have no interest in such a thing at all. But the long review is by Ferdinand Mount, who is great. He's fantastic. So a perfect example of where I'll go where the reviewer goes, even though I'm not ever going to read the book. Then we have the TLS, the Times Literary Supplement. And this is the same thing. This had pieces in it, a couple of pieces on classical history that look interesting to me. I don't have either one of them. But, for instance, Michael Caines reviews Denise Giganti's book, Book Madness, which I read and really liked. Haven't got to this yet. Haven't got to this issue yet to see whether or not the reviewer liked it. Also, Sarah Wheeler, who is terrific. She's done a whole bunch of great travel writing books. Her book, Terra Incognita, you should not miss. She reviews Wanderlust. Read Mittenbuhler's Life of Peter Freuchen, which we saw on this channel. It'll be interesting to know whether or not she likes it. And there's one review in here of a book that I have already read, even though I shouldn't have read it. I shouldn't have read it, because it doesn't have an American release, and I don't think it's ever going to get one. Where is it here? Well, it should be right up. It's Maddock Cairns reviews Wish I Was Here by M. John Harrison, the great writer, the great sci-fi writer, M. John Harrison. And I couldn't resist. I had to get a copy of that book and read it. Didn't know quite what to make of it. It's a very, very defiant book, and I was halfway into it when it's surreal. and it does also. It's not a normal memoir at all. Not at all. It's mostly fiction. But it's surreal, and I really appreciate that. It's beautifully written, but about halfway, it's only 200 pages long, and about halfway into it, I was thinking, okay, this is a very, very defiant book, but who are you defying? Everybody loves your work, and people have been experimenting with the memoir genre forever. So it's not a straitjacket. You're not. Who are you being defiant of here? And I still don't know the answer to that question. It's a kind of angry FU book, including a grammatical error in the title. M. John Harrison knows as well as I do what the subjunctive is. He knows that it's not if wish I was here. It's wish I were here. Because if you can wish that you were here, you are here. So anyway, it's cocking a snook, I believe the Brits say, and I don't know who. I don't know who it's doing that to. No one was ever expecting M. John Harrison to write a straight-laced memoir. No one expects straight-laced memoirs at all anymore from anybody. So, but I really enjoyed it. I had to read the book though, even though it's not out in America, and I don't think it's going to be. And then we have the last periodical is the New Yorker, with the Roz Chast cover. The woman is shopping for all these things that will ruin her life, and this has literary stuff in it, but it's literary stuff that is probably not going to interest me, and Laurie Moore and whatnot. I'll read the pieces because I like the authors. That seems to be a theme, but they won't do much for me. But those are the periodicals. So let's do the books, and let's see if we can get through the books without an explosion, without an unfilmable explosion. Let's see if we can do that. There are no boxes. We can be quick about it, so that we're. The more I linger, the more I might be tempted to explode. So let's. Oh, great. Okay, this is $2 Radio Press. They sent me one of their publishers reached out to me for one book they thought I might be interested in, and it did sound like something that would be of interest to me. So I said yes, and another publicist noticed that and said, can I add one more book to that? So I got two of them from $2 Radio Press. Nice square trade paperbacks. Let's see what we got here. We'll look at both of these. So this first one comes out in mid-November, and it's a collection of modern horror short stories, which is a subgenre I know almost nothing about. I just like the sound of the pub sheet, that's all. This is by Bennett Sims. I bet there are going to be people out there watching this video that know this author, that know this whole subgenre a million times better than I do. So you will have a book to put on your list, if so. Bennett Sims, this comes out in mid-November. This is Other Minds and Other Stories. A man lends his phone to a stranger in a mall, setting off an uncanny series of unknown calls that come to haunt his relationship with jealousy and dread. A well-meaning locavore, that means eating only food near where you gather yourself. A well-meaning locavore tries to butcher his backyard chickens humanely, only to find himself absorbed into the absurd violence of the pecking order. A student applying for a philosophy fellowship struggles to project himself into the thoughts of his hypothetical judges, becoming increasingly possessed and overpowered by the problem of other minds. And in The Postcard, a private detective is hired to investigate a posthumous message that a widower has seemingly received from his dead wife, leading into a foggy landscape of lost memories, shifting identities, and strange doublings. That sounded fantastic to me. All of those story summaries sounded fantastic to me. So I don't usually do this sort of thing, but I'll definitely give it a try. And if you do usually do this sort of thing, if horror short stories, contemporary horror, whatever you would call this, if this really is up your alley, and I know plenty of you where it is, you might want to think about reviewing this for me for Open Letters Review in mid-November. You've got all the time in the world. This isn't a long thing. If you live in the continental United States, I'd be happy to send it to you. But then the other book that they sent me also sounded really interesting. This is a novel by Christine Lai, and it's called Landscapes. Is this also a November release? September. This comes out in mid-September. Loaded with blurbs. Just loaded with blurbs from people. Let's see what this is about. I don't quite remember. In the English countryside, decimated by heat and drought, Penelope archives what remains of an estate's once notable collection. As she catalogs the library's contents, she keeps a diary of her final months in a dilapidated country house that has been her home for 2 decades and a refuge from those who have been displaced by disasters. Out of necessity, Penelope and her partner, Aidan, have sold the house, and its scheduled demolition marks the pressing deadline for completing the archive. But with it also comes the impending return of Aidan's brother, Julian, at whose hands Penelope suffered during a brief but violent relationship 22 years before. As Julian's visit looms, Penelope finds herself unable to suppress the past, and she clings to art as a means of understanding, of survival, and of reckoning. I don't know from that description if this is set in, a near future England. Although, a little item that people don't like to remember when they do, a country house tour, for instance, in the summer, they get a summer vacation, do a 2-week country house tour, is how searingly hot it is the whole time. So you don't have to be set in the future to have a hostile climate for a book like this. But, okay, we're not going to read the author's bio. The mail haul is proceeding perfectly. Let's skip author bios for the sake of uploading this video. But that sounds really good. Right? That you can see right away the fictional possibilities there. The main character is in the process of cataloging the past of a building before it's demolished, when all of a sudden her own past comes back to haunt her. That's a pretty good premise. So those are two from $2 Radio. Well, this is September, and this is November. Things that are coming out there to let you know. Put them on your radar here. All right, let's do this next one here. We will be calm. We will be collected. We are the master of our domain. We will not let a mail haul ruin our day. Okay, this one's not coming open. We want to keep in mind. We want to try to dismiss from our minds Steve's #1 dictum when it comes to packages, which is that the more effort they are to open, the less worthwhile they are to open. This is a manila envelope. There's no reason I should need scissors to open this, but let's give it a try and see. What on earth is this? It doesn't seem like a book at all. Oh. Oh, it's not a book. Oh, no wonder it's so hard to open. Oh my! Here, let's just throw caution to the wind here, because this is not a book. This is a shrill, intemperate demand on my part. This is tech. I am forever saying on this channel that you should all go through your kitchen drawers or your cabinets or whatnot, find all the tech you don't use, wipe your porn off it, because I don't want to see your porn, or maybe I do, and send it to me. And someone actually did that. What have we got here? What a cute little device. Look at that. It's even got a rubbery case to it, one of these armor cases that I love so much. I wonder if it has any power. I'd love to know what it is. I didn't notice a note in the... Okay, well, we've got the power cord as well. And it's not a USB-C, so it's probably a little older of a device. Oh, it's a Kindle Fire. It's a Kindle Fire. What a perfect dimension in the hand. Oh, right, I think I know who sent this. I think I remember the email exchange now. The first thing that I'm going to do with this thing is root it. I'm going to change it. I need to find out. I need to go online and find out the very latest version of how to do that. Okay, this is 100% power. Look at that. What a beautiful little device. And the reason that I will... Oh my, look at that. It's syncing up right away with where it is. Incredible. Okay. Here, let me do a little bit here. It's syncing up right away with my Wi-Fi. Amazon devices don't mess around. They want your business. But that's the problem with this thing, is that Amazon, they manufacture these things. It's just a stock Android device. And then they put an Amazon skin over it that's really, really intrusive and really limiting. It hobbles the device. So that most of the major apps that you and I both love, that you might use every day, you can't use them on this device out of the box, because the developer of that app won't pay the price for Amazon, or is in competition with Amazon or whatnot. In other words, the device as it is might be good for a loyal Amazon customer, for a loyal Kindle user, but what I want to do is strip that skin off this thing. I want to strip the Amazon skin off it so that it has gone back to being a really good, really solid stock Android device. One of the things that, one of the attractions of these Fire devices of any kind is that they are a really good, really solid device. You've got years of use out of this thing. once you get it unlocked from the Amazon system. And there's always a way to do that. Amazon is every once in a while lazily closing these back doors, but more open up. I'm sure that there's a way to do with this thing. And I want to do it because obviously, among other things, I want the Google Play Store on here, which you're not going to get on a native Amazon device. You're not going to get the Google Play Store. I want the Google Play Store so that I can have Google Chrome, so that I can have Google Docs, so that I can have YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and everything else. Virtually none of those things are available in the app store that comes on Amazon's native system. They want to funnel as much business as possible straight to themselves. But if I strip that skin off this thing, and install, just a normal thing like Google Chrome, for instance, as my browser, well, then I can download everything. I can download all the apps that I want. Everything is in the Google Play Store, including the Kindle app. So it's not like I'm abandoning Amazon. I won't be. What do we want here? All right. Well, I don't have to set this up at the moment. That's fantastic. All right. So this is fully charged. This is 100%. I don't need the power cord yet. I'm going to play around with this. I don't need to take you through it all, but I will. No wonder the package was so odd. I will play around with it. I will see what's what on it, and I will also ask the device itself what its specs are. I'm going to need to know those specs in order to, reconfigure the thing. I think I'll do that right away. There's no point in doing anything else on it because I know that it's not useful to me the way it is now. Except I love the dimensions here, and I didn't know it was coming with a case. I love that too. You've got the cutout for the camera, although you won't really be using the camera on this thing. And you've got the cutout for the one speaker. Who is this? CaseBot. That's a really nice case. I like that. So I don't need to charge it up. And it comes in a mail haul with books, but this represents thousands of books. Once it's up and running, this is a really nice, handy size. It's a more handy size. I don't know if I can do this without disturbing the bean. It's a more handy size, for instance, just by a bit, than, for instance, my iPad mini. See that there? This thing I can palm, but it's a stretch. And if I'm not paying attention, it'll slip right out of my hand. This thing I can easily palm. So that's going to make for more comfortable reading, especially in long-term, reading hours at a time. Let's put everything back here. Great, fantastic. Well, if the sender of this is watching this video, I cannot thank you enough. I am going to Frankenstein this thing and use the hell out of it. And that does not put the rest of you off the hook. I still want your tech. UK, tablets, MacBooks, whatever you do, I want your tech. If you don't use it, why have it sit around when I will use it? But this is going to be an exploration. I'm going to have to set aside an hour. It takes usually about an hour for me to research the right technique and then do it. There are probably 4 or 5 steps that you've got to do. You've got to do them carefully. You've got to do them in order. They're relatively simple. And once they're done, you've got a normal Android tablet. You're not dealing with Amazon anymore. You're not just living in Amazon's very limited ecosystem. So that's the first thing I will do on this thing. Fantastic, wonderful, perfect condition, wonderful screen. All right, now let's move on to the rest of the packages. That's great. I got tech. Tech is always fun. This next one is an advanced copy of something. Oh, it's from Harvard University Press. Great. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I was talking to the publicist about this. This comes out in late October. This is by Edward Gray, and it is Mason-Dixon, Crucible of the Nation, a new history of the Mason-Dixon line and what it means. The United States is a product of border dynamics, not international frontiers, but the boundary that runs through its first heartland. The story of the Mason-Dixon line is the story of America's colonial beginnings, nation building, and conflict over slavery. Historian Edward Gray offers the first comprehensive narrative of the Mason-Dixon line. Formalized in 1767, the line resolved a generations-old dispute that began with the establishment of Pennsylvania in 1681. Rivalry with the Calverts of Maryland, complicated by struggles with Dutch settlers in Delaware, breakneck agricultural development, and the resistance of the Lenape and Susquehannock natives, led to contentious jurisdictional ambiguity, full-scale battles among colonists, and ethnic slaughter. Then, in 1780, Pennsylvania's Act for the Gradual Abolition of Slavery inaugurated the next phase in the line's history. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery sentiments had long coexisted in the Maryland-Pennsylvania borderlands, but now African Americans, free and enslaved, faced a boundary between distinct legal regimes. With the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act in 1850, the Mason-Dixon line became the federal instrument to arrest the northward flow of freedom-seeking blacks. Only with the end of the Civil War did the line's significance fade, though it continued to haunt African Americans as Jim Crow took hold. Boy, that sounds good. Oh boy, that sounds good. I'm going to wait on it, I think, until then. And I mean, you can tell from that back cover copy that I'm once again going to have the surreal experience of reading, what is this, 300 pages? 400. A 400-page history of the Mason-Dixon line that never actually uses the word slave. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to use the surreal experience of reading a 500-page biography of Phyllis Wheatley that never calls her a slave. Because I guess the fascists that run academia don't allow you to use that word anymore. Still, that sounds really good. I wonder, though, about that claim of this being the first history of the Mason-Dixon line. Can that possibly be true? It's a relatively gray area in my knowledge. I don't know that I would know off the top of my head. It doesn't seem like it could possibly be true. But I've got a long time to think about it, and let's do this last package. We are almost at the finish line of a mail haul that we can upload. Let's just put this down there. What is our final thing? Oh no! All right. Well, this final thing is a finished copy of a paperback, and it could elicit a rant, but it wouldn't be a rant that would stop me from uploading the video. This is by Ariane Chavisi, and this is the paperback of Arguing for a Better World: How Philosophy Can Help Us Fight for Social Justice. And philosophy can't help us do anything, so it can't help us fight for social justice. It can't help us do anything. It's useless. It's a completely useless discipline. It's not even a discipline. But what have we got here? Okay, so the back cover asks a bunch of bulleted questions. So maybe we are going to run into upload trouble. Is it sexist to say that, quote, men are trash? Yes, it is. I don't care. I'm sure the author of this book would say, no, it's not. I don't care. You are moving the goalpost in order to hate the right people. There's no such thing as hating the right people. It's not good to hate anybody except Nazis. The next bullet question is, can white people be victims of racism? Yes, they can be. I know for a fact, for sure, that the author of this book is going to say they can't be. But they can be. And what's the third one? Are we going to get a clean sweep? Do we bear any individual responsibility for the climate crisis? Yes, we do. The climate crisis is being hugely accelerated by human activity. You are a human. So you do have a minuscule part of individual responsibility. It's corporations that are mostly doing it, but you have an individual part in that. Okay, so that wasn't smooth sailing at all. Let's see. We've all wrestled with questions like these. No, we haven't. No, we haven't at all. Not at all. If you say that one sex is all trash, you are being sexist. If you discriminate against one group of people because of their skin color, you are being racist. Someone who asks these questions is meaning to set you up for a fall. They are denying reality, gaslighting you, in order to make themselves seem virtuous. They aren't wrestlable questions at all. Whether we're shouting at a relative across the dinner table, I bet you do a lot of that, don't you, Ariane? I'll bet you do. I bet your relatives see you coming at holidays. Quarreling with old classmates on social media. Have any of them not blocked you, Ariane? At this point? Any of them? Or chatting late into the night with friends. Oh, Ariane, I'd be willing to bet you have only allies, not friends. Your friends have to agree with you, or they're not your friends anymore. I could be wrong, but anyone who would ask these questions and think that they need wrestling probably has no friends, only allies. I have friends with whom I disagree on everything in the world, and it's wonderful. But anyway, many people give knee-jerk answers that roughly align with their broader belief system, but flounder when asked for their reasoning, leading to a conversational stalemate, especially when faced with a political, generational, or cultural divide. I gave knee-jerk answers. You're going to put a lot of stress on generational, aren't you? You're going to say, oh, well, greatest generation. You would think that way, Grandpa. The truth is that our answers to those questions almost always rely on unexamined assumptions. Thanks. hallmark of philosophy of all kinds. Don't your questions or assumptions rely on unexamined presuppositions? Meaning what? That I have examined them. You haven't, but I have. That's why I pity you. In this book, philosopher Ariane Shavisi shows us how to work through thorny moral questions by examining their paths in broad daylight, equipping us not only to identify our own positions, but to defend them as well. This book demonstrates the relevance of philosophy to everyday lives and offers some useful tools for those who want to learn how to better fight for justice and liberation for all. The classic hallmark of philosophy is that it raises a question that any 5-year-old knows the answer to and pretends that that's just the palliative. That's just Plato's cave, man. The reason that we think that it's so simple that a 5-year-old can answer is because we haven't thought about it enough. And if we do, oh man, do we really know anything? I mean, a 5-year-old says that it's bad to get burned. Do we really know that? Yeah, right. But I'm not seeing you walking into the campfire while you're toasting your s'mores. You don't examine these questions. You know perfectly well the answer that a 5-year-old knows. Is a sunset pretty? How do we know? Alpha Centauri, blind people, privilege? Now, when you look at a sunset, your first reaction is that it's pretty. But that might just be the sunsetness of sunsets that I'm talking about, and not sunsets themselves. Right. In this case, I'm going to go to the author's biography. As long as I'm picking on poor Ariane, we might as well go all the way. Ariane Shavisi is a Kurdish-British writer and academic philosopher. Raised in Lancashire and Essex, she studied astrophysics and philosophy at the Universities of Cambridge and Oxford, and now teaches applied philosophy at the Brighton and Sussex Medical School, where her research focuses on gender, race, migration, and health. She writes regularly for the London Review of Books, the one we just saw in this video, and her essays have also appeared in The Guardian, The Prospect, The Independent, and The Economist. Okay, those are megawatt credentials, but I don't see an earlier book mentioned. No earlier book mentioned. I wonder if this is her first book. And also, I'm getting a paperback of this, but this did come out last year, didn't it? Didn't I make fun of this last year? I thought I did. Well, it says 2023. Maybe this is a paperback original. I'm going to have to look this up. I definitely want to dig into it. If I haven't already read this, and it is a current book for 2023, I definitely want to dig into it and give it a trot around the park. So, anyway, all right, well, we're ending on philosophy, but we're not ending on a contentious note. I have a feeling that most of the philosophy dudes that I've met will give Ariane Shavisi a temporary day pass to be a philosophy dude. Most of them don't seem to dislike me. Most of them seem to understand that I'm going to give their stupid so-called discipline, their time-wasting, idiotic, navel-gazing preoccupation, a good kicking. That it's all in good fun. It can't be important because philosophy is entirely, from beginning to end, irrelevant. So, but I used to have these arguments with Aristotle in between other activities. I used to have these arguments with David Hume. I never took it personally. So anyway, I'll have to look this up and see. But you have a philosophy book out there in the world. Either this is a new paperback release of last year's book, or this is a new release, Arguing for a Better World. And if you don't buy it, you're racist. And maybe what would be the word if you don't like the Kurds? I don't even know. But we've got Arguing for a Better World. We've got Mason-Dixon, a new history of the Mason-Dixon line here in America. Fascinating. I can't believe it has never been done before. Then we have 2 productions from $2 Radio. We have Other Minds and Other Stories, creepy modern horror, and Landscapes, a novel by Christine Lai, a country house story that sounds like a lot of interesting twists to it, plus tech. Oh, this fits so perfectly in the hand. I'm hoping that the revamping process goes well. There's about a 1 in 10,000 chance that you will screw up your machine if you do this wrong. It's not impossible. It'd be nice if the reversion, if you did an error, it would be nice if the reversion was it just goes back to the Amazon stock device. But there's a chance that it won't, and that you'll just brick your machine. I'm hoping that's not true, but this was not being used where it was, and so it came to me. I think it's worth a risk to try, and I will report back. I'll report back, of course, on all of these books, but I'll report back on the tech promptly to let you know whether or not it worked and maybe show you around it. Anyway, that is the mail for today. It is uploadable. The only time I ever jousted with anything was the dumbness of philosophy. so that is perfectly fair game. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.